Two, please. Okay, and the mic. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Everyone still awake after lunch? No. It's okay, you're excused, Olga. All right, well, welcome everybody. First round of the soapbox. As you know, this is a bit of fun, a bit of excitement. Not for the speakers, I'm sure they've been sweating buckets for the last few days trying to figure this out. But this is on the spot stuff, so exciting, fun stuff. So we're running to a really tight schedule today. Just a couple of rules. Between 5 and 8 minutes, we'll call a speaker at 7 minutes to say you have a minute left. You need to wrap it up. We'll open up for a little Q&A session at the end, maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes max, and then we move on. We move quickly. We keep moving. We've 30 minutes. Two great speakers. They say you've got to be crazy to go first, and well, we all know this guy, Jose Palomares, is first up the bat today, so he's not crazy, but he loves this stuff. So, Jose, up you come. Round of applause, please, folks. This is scary stuff. So, Jose, 8 minutes. We'll put you on the clock whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let me get the clock so actually I can check on myself. No. And we can hear okay. And this
no
is
problem.
Not too bad to talk. All right. So.
Is it good?
As good as it will probably be.
Okay.
So, should we go?
Yep.
All right. So, well, thank you, everyone. I had a chance to do this format last year, and then it was really good. Had a lot of interest, but then I also created a lot of expectations. So please drop them all together. You saw the other presentation. I was like really upset, and I wanted to like rant about that one. But then I was thinking, it's like, what could I do for this one that I cannot usually say? And I thought I would talk about a little bit of a love story. So I have this like love story, or this like great relationship with vendors, or with one vendor, or maybe with multiple vendors. It doesn't matter. Let's call them the vendor. And you know, it's a relationship that has like grown over time, and I'm really happy right now, but we didn't get like, it wasn't a smooth road all the time, so it took some time to get in there, some bumps along the way. And I just wanted to like share some of the highlights of that relationship and how it happened and what made it really like work for me. And maybe it will change, but it's been like pretty consistent. So I wanted to start with like how we got started. You know, I was out of like a very toxic relationship, and they came to me and they say, hey, we would love to have a relationship with you. And I said, I don't know, everything is still very fresh. I still remember the pain from, I'm not sure I want to have like new, it's like, well, why don't we try, like go slow, we do some things, go out and talk and whatever. And I said, well, you know. And then I shared things that were like painful in the previous relationship, and they were like really good at consulting with me. And I was, for instance, like, you know, sometimes I have this need where I need to start a project and the PO is not ready. And I had my previous relationship, at one point they hijacked some of my projects because the PO wasn't ready, made me really feel bad, look bad in the company. So that's something that I hope that my next relationship can do better. And they were like, absolutely, no problem, we can do that. Of course, we also need to follow the law, so you need a PO to actually, you know, do business. And I was like, well, that's fine. How about we meet in the middle? Maybe, how about I pay you a penalty if it takes over a certain number of days to actually get you the PO. But whenever I say that something is approved and there is budget for it, you actually go and do it, and they say, well, let's try that. So that was at the beginning of the relationship. It was really good in talking. The next important point I remember is when I asked them, I said, you know, I think it's about time that we meet your translators. Like, I need to know who they are. I would like to know their names, and I would like to, you know, have a relationship with them. So I know that this is not easy for you. You usually take a long time. You don't want to show your cards, but I really want to have that relationship with them. And they were like very open to it. They did things like, yeah, we can tell you who they are. We can introduce you. And I said, oh, well, that's amazing. Can we like put them in a place where I can talk to all of them? And they say, yeah, let's find a way. We did a Slack or something like that to get them connected. And I said, well, that's great. But what can you do for us? How are you going to do something for those translators? And I said, well, we can train them. How about we train them? We're going to provide training so that they really know what they're doing. And then we said, why don't we bring them over? Can we bring them over and maybe train them in here? They said, well, that's probably going to be too expensive. You're going to do that. Can we do language leads only? Can we bring, you know, if it's like 30 people, can we bring them over and have like language leads attending? And, you know, we work it out. It was interesting. It was really good for me. and I hadn't done it before, so it was a first, which in a relationship is always good news, having a first. And it's of course we are like very demanding. And I tried to tell that from the beginning, but people usually don't trust you when you say it. It's like, I'm very demanding. It's like, my team is very demanding. We can be a little bit of a pain in the ass. Sometimes, like, our mornings are rough, like, until we get coffee. So, and they said, yeah, you can be sometimes. And the most concerning thing is that sometimes you only send us, like, the most difficult projects. And that doesn't feel like that good. So can we, like, maybe, we went to some counseling on what could we do about it. And then we ran some numbers. And it turned out that, yes, we were difficult. So we knew that we were difficult, so we had to find a way. So the therapist said, why don't you just like go in for certain projects or for certain periods of time, for certain areas of business, why don't you up your rates? And of course, that was like my first reaction. It's like, what? Rates going up? That's crazy. We cannot do that. But actually when you have like good data, that's not that silly. So guess what? We said, yeah, for these areas of the business, we're going to do that. We don't want you to be lacking. We don't want you to be struggling. So let's pay you more where it makes sense, but we're also going to review it. So let's agree. In a year from now, we look at it, we see how we're doing, we see how difficult we are. Because it doesn't make sense that we are adding all that automation and all that AI and all of those cool things that are costing us extra money, and we still pay for being difficult when we're no longer difficult. And they were like, that sounds about fair. So we've been doing that for a while. And that reminds me of another case where like I had a lot of pressure from my company saying, well, you need to do things with AI. It's like, why? Because AI. All right, so we can go ahead and do that. And they wanted to do something really weird, like get, we don't have anyone to like test Arabic, so we're going to get you screenshots. You can use AI and review them. Obviously, I'm putting this on them, but the credit is from the team. The team had the idea. No one in leadership had that idea. And we went ahead and we said, hey, can we do that? And my vendor said, no way. We've never done that. That sounds like utterly complicated. It's going to cost a lot of money. We have the expertise. We know some people. We have Arabic experts. We have AI experts. Like, that sounds like you could do it. It's like, yeah, we've never done it. It's not in the roadmap. Well, how about this? How about we go half-seas on this? How about we design a pilot, we test it out, we actually make it work, and we split the cost. So now I'm working on this new AI solution that makes me look really good, and then someone else is, in a way, sharing the burden for it. If it works, then they benefit from that. So definitely ran out of time, so I hope that those were valuable. I just want to 1 minute? No, I have like 1.5 go. I started the timer, you're lying to me. Well, then I wanted to jump to the conclusion, like why this is working so well for everyone involved. So I tried to make it like very much a partnership, and that is this, the happy ending is when at one point I'm going to have the hard conversation. I'm going to go, we need to talk. I have to leave you. It's not you, it's me, clearly. But I got a new job offer. I need to go somewhere else. I can't continue to work with you. But I've talked to the team. I told them that you're awesome, that they should really work with you. Come on, come on, come on. Go and do it. And more importantly, would you please come and visit at the new job? And they said, absolutely. And we hold hands and walk into the sunset. Is that good? All right.
Beautiful. And the rest is history. So we're going to open it up for a couple minutes with all the difficult questions for.
Yeah, good luck asking questions about this one.
If anybody, any questions? We have Yuki here. Can run the room.
Like, what did you mean with all of it?
It's the first time you silenced
I
the
know.
room here, Jose.
I tried to do something different. I'm paying for it.
Beautiful. No
Nope.
questions? One. Here we go.
There you go.
What do you do if you have regrets for walking away?
Oh, walking away? What do you mean? From the...
If you broke up the relationship and you realize what you're going to is not better than what you had.
Yeah. So great question. You're going to have regrets, and that is unfortunate. One way to not have regrets is to actually go to therapy. Like, go to counseling. Like, bring a consultant that actually tells you who sucks in this relationship and who needs work to do. That is, I'm not a big fan of like getting consultants, people who don't know exactly what we're doing. But a consultant can be that third party that actually saves a relationship, because an external point of view, without all that bias, can be really, really good. And again, and the morale of the end of like breaking the relationship is like, when you go somewhere else, I'm going to bring that partner with me, very likely, if I can, because all these things that I tell you like casually are like critical points at which with someone else I've been incredibly stressed or unsuccessful and had turned into like great points of added value for it. So, but regrets, hopefully none, as long as you try.
Totally agree with everything you said. Very similar approach on my side. But the very practical question, how did you get budget support for flying the language leads over? That's the thing that I have never achieved yet.
Yeah, so, and that takes like some creative accounting, but nothing that is illegal. So some of the events that I run, and I've actually have another, when they stole 45 seconds from me, I was going to tell you about the time where I took my, I'm going to tell you, about the time that I took my team on an offsite for the QBR, not that far out. But I took the team somewhere for the critical QBR and training days, and then we used that time also for our own team building and our own offsite. So we framed that under, and part of it was like the training that we were receiving. Another part was like a QA review that we had and business review. And the fact that we lowered the cost so much, because in this case, we went where our vendor was. So we used their offices, we used their space. That was like so incredibly convenient that then presenting that budget for like, I'm taking this many people and it's gonna cost this little, it was impossible to reject, even at a time where there was like a travel freeze, which was like pretty, someone from my team is here, they can just celebrate that. It's like, it did happen. We were the only team in the organization who actually went at that time in spite of the travel freeze. So creative. Everything that you do, everything that you buy from a vendor is a service that can be really built. So just try, get a hold of the numbers, and make sure that you're pushing for something that is easy to approve.
Love it.
Okay, we've time for one more. This gentleman over here, I'm sorry. Sorry, he had his hat up earlier. So.
Yeah, he was. No.
Yeah, Jose, I'm a bit cautious going deeper into this analogy, but was it like a mono-vendor relationship or poly-vendor relationship?
I have a card in which it says, at one point, I think that we should open the relationship and how that went. It is, again, some arguments for and against, but the important thing was like, tell me why not. And we reach some really, I had like this weird situation where I have like open up someone's platform or software to another vendor just to try if that works. It's not that great, but it's, it is workable. And once you see it fail, you don't want it anymore. So it also reinforces that relationship with someone. Next time, I'm not getting into bed with more than one at the same time. Again, life choices. Everybody do whatever you want. For me, take a pass. I'm getting too old.
Awesome. Thanks for that. We'll wrap it up. Round of applause. Right. Thanks for that. Great stuff. Quick shout out to Yuki here, who's actually my mentee from the Middlebury Institute of Studies in Monterey, California, and is a student volunteer here today. So thanks, Yuki. Forgot to mention that at the beginning. Okay, next up the bat. I apologize in advance. Olga Bergovoya. Bergovoya. I know. Okay, Olga's up next. Round of applause, please. Thank you. Just let us know when you're ready.
Okay, guys. I'll have my phone in front of me because I have a hard time presenting without anything to look at. Look, my relationship with Translation Memories is probably not as I don't know, Jose, what the intimate, close. In other words, I don't have any of those parallels in the relationship with TMs. But and also another thing is coming from a translation. I hate the word TMS. Coming from global content management system. How about that? I might be on a suicide mission here because I'm going to be talking about the potential death of the TM, and obviously translation management systems, as we know them, all rely on the TM. But the place where I'm coming from is there hasn't been a day where we do not talk to our customers like, hey, okay, I want to author the source. And then I just want to author the source I want to generate the source just from a single prompt. Or I don't want any source whatsoever, and I want to generate it from yet again from a prompt for the target. And what exactly is your plan for storing it? And what exactly is your plan for reusing it? Or, for instance, I want to transcreate, I want to have 5 versions of the source based on personas. Obviously, our existing TMX, XLIF formats do not do miracles for those. So I wanted to dissect a little bit where I think it's going and where I think the success is, where we get the best bang for our buck. So a couple of questions first. Let me start with transcreation, right? A lot of us are involved in the transcreation business, and we do know that, again, translation management systems, as we know them, do not quite do miracles for transcreation. So it's almost, if we look at the transcreation, we're almost halfway there with a questioning the value of the existing formats, right? I mean, you can still do one-to-many, you can still do like a sentence to a paragraph alignment, but it doesn't do miracles for the reuse. And probably a lot of us in the room have experienced that. Now, if we look at where we are at the age of Gen AI, we are at the age of the new creativity. And we've evolved past the transcreation. So question mark here, what can we do there? That's the first one. Now, some of us who've been in the industry for a while probably remember all the experiments around authoring memory, right? And authoring memory was another not so shiny success, unless there's somebody in this room who is actually in the business of authoring memory, where they tried, controlled English and authoring memory, where we tried to force the reuse on the author part, and again, the author is like, hey, we want to be way more creative with that. So, what I suggest, where I think we should be going, first of all, TM as we know it, is still fit for purpose for a lot of cases, right? And those cases is a lot of people will still want to translate and have a linear one-to-one translation. Where this gonna be of most use is probably as training corpus for machine translation engines. It still has its value as a training corpus. So 2, translation scenario and training corpus for MT, where you want your clean, aligned source to target machine translation. Perfect. That still definitely works. The other scenario maybe would be, let me see what else I have. So TM to terminology alignment. Again, that's still not going anywhere. The TMX to TBX alignment, that's yet again, we want our data clean, and that's the easiest way of getting to the clean data, have source and target aligned. But I think what we go in the future is first we need to define, we say high quality data, what do we actually mean? And what is high quality data? If we say we want clean data, what does it mean at the age of Gen AI? Do you need enough data to provide few shot examples to your prompt? Do you need fairly small subset of content, fairly small set of content to fine-tune your engines? And as we're learning, you don't need a lot to fine-tune your engines, or do you need anything at all? Do you just need the prompt? So these are the big questions, and where I think we could be going with this is, and then what is quality data? Do we use MQM as a metric, or do we really look at the data impact? So we definitely need, first things first, if we want to have a good data management structure for the new generation of translation, we need to understand what quality data and what clean data actually means. So I'm a database designer from hell, I'll be very honest. So I will just throw some thoughts together. So definitely some underlying structure is needed for having the data that can be referenced in fine-tuning or used in fine-tuning, have data that can be referenced in retrieval augmented generation, have data that can be used for few short examples, but really becomes a reference database much more than the actual tool for leveraging. What I also suggest is alignment gives way to metadata. You don't necessarily, because if you can generate all the time, you don't necessarily need the text, but you could definitely have the domain, the client, and all the other concepts that you can actually feed into your metadata. So we align the concepts, not the data. We obviously, in the next generation of whatever that database is, I think that we really are moving in the direction of either taxonomies or ontologies, depending on the use case, where you actually have one umbrella concept. And then whatever creativity you allow, however you want to generate those concepts, they're all clustered under that one umbrella. And I think a prompt can be a great unit of thought. Like I prompted this much, and from here I can generate, I don't know, marketing content for backpackers, marketing content for casual travelers, and marketing content for whatever. But my initial unit of thought is, this is my customer, and from here I can actually generate the clusters of content and then reuse them as I wish. String level translation, that's another thing. Again, TMX as we know it, and translation memory as we know it, can still survive. But is it going to be string level translation? We absolutely have to have the capabilities of bundling into document level translation, because we do know that GenAI operates on context level. So here's another one. Account for pre-edited source. Again, TMX as we know it is, I mean, yeah, you can fake it. You can do one source and then second source and multiple targets, but it's a hack. Again, I think, in my opinion, it goes back to the potential ontology scenario where you have a single translation and then you have various adapted sources based on persona. So I think metadata is going to be key, and the underlying data structure is going to be key. And the other thing is, again, we store the data that we want to reuse, but we pay much more attention to the parameters that we used to generate this data, i.e., how much, temperature, the tolerance for different variances. So all in all, I think what's going to happen is TMs will continue existing, but alongside TMs, the unit of thought is going to be prompt and the way of generating that content. And then from there, we figure out how to store it. So that's my short pitch. Yes? 1 minute left. Excellent. The other thing I wanted to say, actually, the other thing, again, I'm a database designer from hell, so like now Jen, the product manager here, she will bid and grab. I mean, if we ever go anywhere with us, that would be Jen's job to organize my thoughts. But the other thing I was thinking as well, there is no source. We say death of the source. We do store the target. Just like in the years of statistical machine translation, monolingual data was as valuable for training the models and for training and testing the models. So one other thing I think that we need to pay attention to is how we store monolingual data and what we can actually harvest from monolingual data. So long and short of it, store prompts, be very clear about the metadata, design in a taxonomy fashion, and don't get too stuck on multilingual, because monolingual is equally important. That's it. Perfect, Tammy. Questions?
Looking for hands around the room?
Yes, Jose. I felt so good keeping you on stage. Okay, go.
Thank you. It seems like for all the things, or at least the ones that I really understood that you said, for them to happen in the TMS, they need a reinvention for the most part.
100%.
So how likely, I think that I would like to get a measure of how much of a recreation of the concept of the TMS is necessary to actually move on to that other stage where you can store all of that additional information. You cannot really stop doing what you were doing before. So how could that look like, and do we need to see a new generation of TMSs that will allow for all of this? Or you think that the ones that we have can really adapt and be a catch-all?
The ones that we have can definitely adapt, but it really takes changing the underlying data design and data structure. But I don't see, there are so many other things around TMSs, i.e. all the connectors, right, all the parsers, all the filters. Why reinvent the wheel? Where all you need to do is just allow for different data design, data architecture to coexist peacefully with translation memories within the same facility. And also they can nurture from each other, right? If you want, for instance, to recreate your content, TM, as we know, it can still be a great source of the initial inspiration, like a few shots, for instance, right, or fine tuning. So I don't think you need to start from scratch. I think it can be a healthy overhaul. It might be, but I have to say, though, that a couple of TMSs out there, actually SmartLink included, already fairly fit for instance, managing taxonomies and not necessarily linear data, but more tree-based data. So it obviously takes an engineering overhaul, but I think it's absolutely doable. Like, for instance, if you go to document level translation, what do you actually need to do? You bundle individual strings, you bundle them into the document, right? You translate the document, and then you can split them again and store in whatever the format you wish. Same for context level translation.
Quick question here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, why not get rid of the TMS altogether and just use the TM and, build something totally new? Because, I mean, yeah, it's, and I'm not sure that I understood everything that you talked
Okay,
about. Because
I'm
it's
not sure
very
I understood
centralized.
everything I said.
But, wouldn't it be easier to just get rid of the TMS altogether and just use the data that you have and build something totally new? It would be, I don't know.
The only reason I believe is why, as I said, that was my same response to Jose. There is so much on the platform level that can handle all sorts of, content is not just linguistics, right? Content is like all sorts of intricacies around parsing, around metadata, around being able to handle your tags, right there. So around, for instance, even picking the best LLM fit for purpose, right? I'm sure Konstantin here would attest that you can't, the world is much bigger than ChatGPT. So I would say that the ability to scale and the ability to handle everything that precedes and comes after linguistic processing is probably the reason why you want to have it all happen in the platform. And also collecting and reporting on the data.
But can you not do that with something else in the center, not the TMS, but something else, for example, Konstantin's tool?
Ask Konstantin.
No, the truth is, as much as I agree with you, I think that if you look at how file filters made in TMS systems, they sometimes filter files in such a way that if you do something differently, you won't be able to build this file back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge problem.
Well, true, but same applies to middleware. Sorry, I had to football that back.
No,
Right.
so
But
think
it is true. It is true. If you parse it out, there are a lot of things you can build in-house. But I guess my main message is, if the TMS has already mastered the art of TM, master the art of the different data structure design, should not be that tremendously difficult, right? It's really the way, the logic you store the data. And again, I'll repeat that TM can still be aligned text, can still be at the core of it because it's infinite. It's great, clean source of data. So that's why I'm saying we're not going to retire the TMs, but it's just the next generation definitely needs to have much more diverse and some form of taxonomy, ontology, tree-based structure. So I guess that's probably why. TM's great. They are not as fit for the workflow, but they make great reference material. Right? Even if your TM is 1 year old or 2 years old. But can you build it all yourself? Absolutely, 100%.
They're nodding. They must agree. Okay, folks, we're going to wrap it at that. Thank you, Olga.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll get the next two victims in to pitch it up. So we're back here at 3:10. Thank you. Beautiful. Thanks so much. That's awesome. Great job. Yeah. Are you running tonight? A different one? Yeah, I'm running to. Okay. Video. Okay. I don't know who is here.